Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick. Today you are listening to episode 88 of Talking Blue, where we are going to recap the Dodgers and the Blue Jays series, which just wrapped up about an hour ago. Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. They destroy them in Game 1, win a nice game in Game 2, and then were unable to hold on to the lead in Game 3, and they unfortunately drop the third game. So you take 2 out of 3, they go 5-1 on the road trip. That is a good road trip. That is a good series. The Dodgers are playing well. We're going to recap all of it. But before that, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos dropping. You can follow us on all social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. That's X. That is TikTok. That's Instagram. You can follow myself at Nick Talkin' Ball on X. I tweet and post about the Dodgers and all about other baseball things. If you want to listen to a new baseball podcast, I have a podcast called Baseball Mondays, recap show that comes out every Monday. The third edition just came out the other day. 4th edition will be coming out in 5 days from today. The time of this recording is Wednesday. Like I said, the Dodgers just dropped that third game to the Blue Jays about an hour ago. Let's go ahead and get into these recap games. Some pretty good games. Dodgers did a lot of good things. Got a little sloppy at the end of the third game, and we'll get into all that. So let's go ahead. Game 1, Justin Robleski taking on the 41-year-old, 42-year-old Max Scherzer. So, in the top of the first inning, the Dodgers get on the board thanks to a 2-run shot from Teoscar Hernandez, his second home run, back-to-back games with a home run for Teoscar. Later in the bottom of the first, the Blue Jays would respond. A bloop single from Ernie Comlant. We saw a ton of that last October. Dodgers were able to get out of it, though, keep a 2-1 lead. Later in the third inning, though, this is where the Dodgers began to tally on a ton of runs. A Freddie Freeman home run, his third home run, a bomb to right center field. In the fourth inning, a sac fly from Kyle Tucker makes it 5-1. Alex Freeland, an RBI ground out, that would make it 6-1. Then a Shohei Ohtani home run in the sixth inning, his third of the year, a shot to dead center. Later in the inning, a double to right center field from Andy Paz, who stays red hot. We go to the seventh inning. Dalton Rushing, who got the start in this game, he hits his second home run. Back-to-back games with a home run for Dalton. He hits this one out to right center. Later on, a Freddie Freeman double would make it 11-1. Dodgers are pouring it on at this point. Teoscar Hernandez singles to make it 3-1. Then in the eighth inning, another home run from Dalton Rushing. His second home run. We'll talk about him after this game. His third home run of the year, second in this game. Dodgers go up 14-1. Later in the ninth, the Blue Jays would get a run across. Miguel Rojas was actually in the game to finish it out for the Dodgers to save some bullpen arms. Dodgers win by a score of 14-2. They keep up the red-hot offense. I believe that is 45 runs in their last 4 games. So a ton of offense. Like I said, final score 14-2. Justin Robleski for 5. Will Klein actually goes 2 innings. That's nice. Edgardo Henriquez for 1. And then, like I said, Miguel Rojas, the 1 inning. And he did allow a 1 earned run. The story of this game early on, Justin Robleski was pitching pretty solid. Max Scherzer leaves the game after 2 innings. I believe there was some forearm tightness. And then Josh Fleming actually came out of the bullpen after that. And Joe Manaply, and that's where the Dodgers put up a ton of their runs. Same thing against Tommy Nance, and that's where they really just blew the game wide open. So, a ton of offense. It just continued the trend that we saw in Washington. 17 hits in this game, only 5 walks, and only 8 strikeouts, which is pretty good. Dodgers did start to strike out a little bit more in the National Series and a little bit more in this series, but 17 hits. You got 2 hits from Shohei, including a home run. Kyle Tucker threw in a hit. Freddie Freeman, 2 more hits, 2 more doubles, or excuse me, a home run and a double. He almost hit another home run double. He hit a couple balls close to the fence in this game, continuing the batting, the slug, and continuing to actually still get lucky, even with an OPS now in the 800s. Teoscar Hernandez, the homer with 2 hits. Max Muncy and Andy Paz, they also contributed with 2 hits. And then Dalton Rushing, 4 hits, 2 home runs. And then even, Hae-Sung Kim got the start in this game at shortstop, made a couple nice plays defensively. Same thing with Alex Freeland. He also threw in 2 hits and has actually looked pretty solid since coming up for the injured Mookie Betts. Like I said, Justin Robleski was solid. Let me give you his final line. His first start of the year, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks. I don't like that Robleski's command has seemed to not been great to start the year. Obviously, limited sample size. That was one of his calling cards a year ago, is that he pounds the strike zone. He also had 2 strikeouts in this game. So Justin Robleski mixed in 6 different pitches, really just 5. He only threw 1 changeup in this game, but the velocity was good. Only had 5 whiffs. Justin Robleski's not a big swing and miss pitcher. He's going to keep the ball on the ground. He's going to use the 4-seamer, the slider, the cutter. He'll even mix in some curveballs and sinkers. And, did pretty good. Obviously, first time that he pitched was out of the bullpen as a bulk man. Now with the schedule getting more, normal basically, without all the off days that were the first couple weeks, Justin Robleski's thrown in the rotation. He gets a win. Actually battled through some command issues, like I said. Hopefully he can get that under control. But pitched pretty solid. Got the win. Good for him. Let's talk about Dalton Rushing and what he did. Like I said, 4 hits, 2 home runs. And if you're a regular on this podcast, or if you listen to any of my preseason podcasts where I talked about, what to expect from the lineup, the pitching staff, the bullpen, I kind of give my thoughts on like every player going into the season and who's supposed to be on the roster. If you remember, something that I said about Dalton Rushing, one was that I had high expectations for Dalton Rushing, and that I thought I really think that he is a really good player. I always believe in top prospects, not that every single top prospect always comes to fruition, and there, of course there are such things as top prospects who don't pan out, but I tend to believe in guys that showed a lot of tools in the minor leagues and are top prospects for reasons. That's why a year ago when Andy Paz was really struggling early on in 2025, and people were calling for him to send down, I believed in Paz because he had shown in the minor leagues. There's reasons why at a young age a lot of people were excited for him, the power potential, the athleticism. Same thing with Dalton Rushing, who hasn't really struggled or done a lot of great things at the big league level. He's in a tough position considering that he is a former top prospect who really should be given the chance to be a everyday catcher for a regular team. But it just so happens that he's on a team that employs the second best catcher in the game in Will Smith. And he even in the minor leagues saw time in the corner outfield spots and first base. And obviously up at the big league level with the Dodgers, you might be thinking, well, how can we get Dalton Rushing more at-bats? Well, he can't DH because the best player in the world is the Dodgers DH. He can't play first base because maybe the best first baseman in the game, definitely, one of the best of the last 10 years plays first base for the Dodgers. And the right, can't play right field. Just signed Kyle Tucker. I guess he could technically play some left field with Teoscar Hernandez. Doesn't really play any other positions. And I also think the Dodgers don't view him in that way, where some organizations, sometimes you see a team that has a catcher who's really good offensively, maybe not as polished on the defensive end, and you want to get him more at-bats, so they try to find ways to get him in the lineup, DH him. I don't think the Dodgers view Dalton Rushing that way. I think they view him as, hey, this is a really, really good catcher that has a lot of upside, and playing Dalton Rushing and having him on the team keeps Will Smith off his feet, for as much, we can kind of keep him limited, and I think that they were not proven right, but I think that what they did last year probably has made them to, start to believe this, because Will Smith had basically the best year of his career last year. Now, because of the limited playing time, it wasn't the most home runs he's ever hit in a season. I think he only hit 17, and I think in his career he's had a 27 home run campaign. But in terms of the slash line, the on-base percentage, the slugging percentage, the OPS, it was the best of his career. He had a OPS, I think, of 900 or 901. And he had never done anything like that in his career, although Will Smith has always been a really good offensive catcher. So I don't think the Dodgers view Dalton Rushing as like, we got to get him in the lineup. We got to find him, get him spots in the outfield, first base. I think that they view him as, we're going to have two great catchers, not a platoon or anything like that. But when Will Smith needs a break, basically once a series, 2 times a day, maybe it'll start to be more like 2 times a week, more like 3 times a week now, maybe. We have this really great second option, basically. So it's a very limited sample size, but if you look at a lot of Dalton's metrics, they are looking great so far in terms of the hard hit percentage, even the whiff and strikeout percentage, which is usually not his calling card. He usually will strike out and whiff. Usually is a guy who can control the strike zone, not chase pitches out of the zone, and will hit the ball hard. His expected batting average, slugging percentage, all those numbers are way up. There's not really much sense to get into those numbers because, like I said, he basically only has 10 plate appearances. But hey, he's hit the ball hard. He's looked great so far. And I told you that I had high expectations for Dalton Rushing coming into the year, that he would actually be an above league average hitter, put up some decent numbers. Not, something crazy, because you have to limit your expectations to a guy who doesn't play every day. I remember there were people last year who were like, kind of like in August or something like that. They were some people, I can remember people on Twitter that were saying like, hey, like Dalton Rushing doesn't really look that great of a hitter, or like maybe we should give someone else a chance. And I just remember going back with people and being like, he's a backup catcher. The job of a backup catcher is not to hit. It's to work with the pitching staff. It's to back up the starting catcher, give him a rest. And it's also not easy for any big league hitter, especially a young hitter, to play twice a week and put up numbers. It's hard. When you're not getting as many at bats, it's hard to put up numbers. So that's why I don't think Dalton Rushing is going to hit like 25 home runs or something crazy like that. But I could very much see a OPS in the 770, 80 range. Maybe like 15 homers, good slugging, good on base, stuff like that. He also is a pretty good defensive catcher. So, wow, a lot of time on Dalton Rushing to start this podcast. But anyways, I like Dalton Rushing. I've always liked on him, always been high on him. And it's been cool to see him get off to a good start. And I'm sure he will get some starts over the weekend against the Rangers. And that's pretty much it on this game. Teoscar and Freddie both going deep. That's great. And then Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland both making some great, impressive defensive plays in this game. And I'm going to get to Alex Freeland after Game 2. So let's go to Game 2, which would feature Yoshinobu Yamamoto taking on Kevin Gausman. And I actually didn't realize that Kevin Gausman and Dylan Cease were lined up to pitch in this series. Those have been two of the best pitchers to start the season so far in baseball, Gausman and Cease, especially Gausman. He's had basically the best strikeout numbers in the game and without allowing a walk. And then funny enough, on the first batter of the game, he walked Shohei Ohtani, his first walk of the season. But anyways, Yamamoto going up against the Blue Jays. Again, they probably have nightmares when they see Yamamoto's face. Let's recap that game. In the top of the third inning, the Dodgers would get on the board first. A single from Shohei Ohtani that brings in Kim, 1-0 Dodgers. Will Smith, an RBI ground out later in that inning, puts them up 2-0. Then in the fifth inning, Alex Freeland, he singles his lone RBI in this game. He actually had 4 hits in this game. 3-0 Dodgers. The Blue Jays would tally on some runs later in the game, though. This is George Springer in the 6th inning against Yamamoto, actually. This is when he got knocked out of the game. A double to right field to make it 3-1. Dodgers would tally on some insurance in the 9th inning thanks to Kyle Tucker. A single into right field to make it 4-1. Edwin Diaz would come on in the 9th on the road for the save. He would notch down his 4th save already, and the Dodgers win Game 2 of this series by a score of 4-1. Yoshinobu Yamamoto for 6, and then we got Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, Edwin Diaz, all for 1 inning. None of them allowed a run. They each went scoreless. Edwin Diaz actually had 3 strikeouts. Vesia had 1 big strikeout coming into the 6th inning with a couple runners on base, pitching out of a huge jam. Bullpen has continued to be great. We'll get to what they did in Game 3 of this series, kind of showing cracks for the first time. But anyways, let's get to Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Let me give you his final line. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. Looked pretty solid. To begin the game, this was definitely the best he has looked in his 3 starts this year. His first start against the Diamondbacks, he looked great early on. And then in his second start against the Guardians, again, he's a very good pitcher, so he was able to manage through it, but didn't necessarily look that great, didn't get a tons of whiffs. In this game against the Blue Jays, similar to that first Diamondback start, looked very solid, very sharp early on. I think he had like 6 strikeouts through the first 3 or 4 innings, but then the Blue Jays tallied together some pretty good at-bats to knock him out of the game. Did try to get him through 7, or at least 6+, but after allowing a leadoff double and then I think a single, Dave Roberts took him out in the 6th inning. So Yamamoto has solid numbers so far to start the year. All right. In 18 innings pitched, he's got a 2.50 ERA. Now, some of his expected numbers have not been great. He's done a couple things better, and he's improved a couple things from what he did last year, but a few things have gone back a tick. Now, again, it's only 18 innings, and it's only his third start, and he's one great dominant start away from having great numbers again, or I guess I should say expected numbers. But so far in 2026, he hasn't had the whiff numbers, and a couple of Dodger pitchers, Glasnow, Ohtani, have also been kind of same territory. Getting some strikeouts, but not necessarily a ton of whiffs. In this game, in this start for Yamamoto, he's continued to lean heavy on the splitter, and he is starting to slowly go away from the four-seam fastball because that pitch has gotten hit early on in 2026. I'll get to that. But he's continued to increase the usage on the sinker and slider with good reason because both of those pitches have been pretty good for him. 11 whiffs in this game, which again is solid. Doesn't mean he had no whiffs. And like I said, early in the game, he was getting a lot of swings and misses, especially on the splitter and some curveballs and some sliders. And I've talked about it before. One of the early things that I've noticed with Yamamoto in 2026 is increasing the usage on his slider. Something that he didn't use a lot in 2025. He threw 7 sliders in this game. It's still pretty low, the last pitch on his pitch usage. But anytime you have a pitch that's over 5% as a pitch usage, that means it's a legitimate pitch. Like sometimes you look at guys' pitch usage and it shows like 2%, 1%. That means they don't really throw that pitch, maybe like once or twice a game. Once you start to get over 5, that is a legit, pitch that you can expect to see. So Yamamoto's thrown at 7% of the time. And that gives him a legit 6-pitch mix where he's generally 5 pitches. Splitter, four-seam cutter, curveball, sinker. Now he's brought in the slider. I think it's a good weapon for him. And it's actually a very sharp pitch for Yamamoto. If you watch it, it's a very typical gyro bullet slider, tight break, but, much more break than his cutter that he throws, which is like a low 90s cutter. He throws the slider about 86, 87 miles an hour. It's got some tight but late sharp action and break to it, so I like that pitch. Again, good pitch for him against right-handed hitters. And if you look at his splits so far this year, righties are hitting him at 250 batting average. The lefties are much lower. Normally, Yamamoto dominates left-handed hitters because of that splitter. It doesn't get crushed by right-handed hitters or anything like that. But so far this year, right-handed hitters have had a little bit more success for him. And I think that the slider, if you can continue to, maybe bring up the usage a little bit, maybe bring back the cutter a little bit, but which he has been using, leaning on a lot so far this year, and use that slider against some right-handed hitters, I'd like to see that. But when you dive into his individual pitches so far, the four-seam and the cutter have been getting crushed. Okay, 316 batting average against his four-seamer and a 714 batting average against the cutter. None of that scares me. I think Yamamoto is going to be fine. But one of the biggest reasons why Yamamoto went from a great pitcher in 2025 to an elite pitcher in 2026 was because of the numbers against his four-seam fastball. He had one of the better four-seam fastballs in the game in 2025. Didn't necessarily get a ton of whiffs on it, but it did lead to low exit velocities, ground balls, and it was a really good pitch for him. And as the season went on, it actually got better and better. He did have some fastball concerns his rookie year getting hit. It didn't get hammered, but it was a little bit of an issue for him right now, that is something Yamamoto has to look to work on, is the four-seam fastball, because when the fastball is there and that is getting outs and he can use the splitter to work off of that pitch, it sets up everything for Yamamoto. That I wonder if that's a reason why the slider and specifically the sinker has increased. He has continued to throw a bit more sinkers to left-handed hitters. I think that's just Yamamoto just having fun and mixing it up and seeing what he can change about his arsenal and expand and all that stuff. So Yamamoto's been great. He's been fine, I should say. I would like to see a little bit more whiffs and strikeouts. I don't want Yamamoto to be like a soft contact king, ground ball, just get ground balls. And he hasn't been getting ground balls this year at the same rate that he did last year, where he was elite with the ground balls. A lot of his expected numbers aren't as great as you would like to see, but the 2.5 ERA in 18 innings pitched is fine. The one thing that he has done, and this is something I actually predicted, was the walks. I think he only has one walk allowed, maybe two so far in his 3 starts. That is something that I expected to increase, and it's actually gotten better than I even would have thought. He had about a league average walk rate in 2025, which is fine. You can get away with that when you have the best batting average against in the game like he did last year. But he is a pitcher that usually has great command, and it was just one of those kind of things that with Yamamoto that you looked at the numbers and you're like, I wouldn't have expected him to have a league average walk rate. I kind of think of him as a guy who pounds the strike zone and has great command. For whatever reason, last year there were just times where the command would get away from him start to start. So far, the command has been great this year. Another reason why I just think I pretty much just think he's one start away from looking like his true self like he did last year. Again, he's been fine so far, and I think he's going to get even better. But, we'll see. I think the whiff numbers should get better. I think the next time he pitches will be against the Mets next week in L.A. So the last thing to close out Game 2, I just wanted to talk about Alex Freeland and give him some credit. And, he's done some impressive things early in this year. Doesn't necessarily have the most gaudy numbers and stat line, slash line, I should say. But Alex Freeland, I wanted to give him a shout out. He's playing great defense and he's controlling the strike zone. And again, when you think about Alex Freeland, or at least Dodger fans so far this year, he's been compared to Ha-Seong Kim a lot, which a lot of people love, and I understand. And Kim definitely has potential. But I always told you guys that I think if you ask the Dodgers, they really wanted to give Alex Freeland a chance, and they do believe in him. And again, another guy who you should believe in top prospects for a reason, because they have the tools, because they have the makeup. There's a reason when guys are top prospects, and Freeland wasn't a highly touted top prospect, but he was a legit top 100 prospect, a legit prospect to have like excitement about. And he was always known as a guy who plays great defense, as a shortstop, by the way, and as a switch hitter has great plate discipline. And what I like early on about Alex Freeland is that my number one favorite thing is that he has great plate discipline. He's in the 88th percentile in chase rate, so he's one of the better hitters in the game at controlling the strike zone. Hasn't led to a ton of walks yet. Sometimes Freeland gets a little too patient, and it leads to him getting called out on strikes a little bit. But when you take a look at his quality of contact, I was a little surprised to see this. 94 average exit velocity is in the 92nd percentile. So he's actually up there at the top percent of hitters when it comes to average exit velocity. He also has a great hard hit percentage, 52.6 hard hit rate. That's very good as well. He also has an above average barrel percentage. So he's actually had done some pretty good things with the bat. His OPS is in the low 700s, so it hasn't fully come together in a great slash line yet. But he's also been playing some great defense, 75th percentile and outs above average. And I actually think that number doesn't do him justice. He's actually made a couple of really nice plays, and he's one of those guys that when the ball's hit to him, you're automatically like, that's an out, because he has one of those some quiet hands, some great athleticism, and like one of those confident guys when infielders, when the ball's hit to him, you could just tell he's like, oh yeah, I'm making this play easily. So I really like Alex Freeland. I do think there's a real good player to dream on here. We'll see if it comes together for a full season. Like, what can he do offensively this year? But it is encouraging so far that, at how old is he? 24 years old. In limited big league time, he has been putting up some good expected numbers with the quality of contact, and then on top of that, he controls the strike zone and has one of the better eyes on the team, actually. And I also really like his defense. So shout out Alex Freeland. 4 hits in this second game, a couple doubles, an RBI, and he's going to get his chance. He's going to get his chance to play everyday second base. It'll be interesting to see at some point when Tommy Edman comes back how they kind of handle all this. But I really think they like Alex Freeland, and if he can show some things and do some things offensively, I wouldn't be shocked if when Tommy Edman came back, it was his job, and maybe Tommy Edman has to play a little bit of utility man. So anyways, those are all my thoughts on Freeland in Game 2. Let's go to Game 3. This was the one game the Dodgers lost in the series, and the one game they actually lost on this entire road trip. So Game 3, which just wrapped up about an hour and a half ago, Shohei Ohtani is on the mound to make his second start of the season. He's taking on Dylan Cease, one of the better strikeout pitchers in the game, and with his new team, the Blue Jays, this year, coming off that free agent contract. So the Blue Jays, who are looking to get their first win in about a week, they get on the board first in the third inning, a double from Jesus Sanchez to put them up 1-0. Later on in the fourth inning, the Dodgers would tie up the game thanks to a Freddie Freeman single, a shot up the middle. Tie game, sixth inning, Teoscar Hernandez hits a sac fly to put the Dodgers up 2-1. So we're looking at potential nice comeback win, a nice sweep, going up 6-0. 6-0 on this road trip. An insurance run in the seventh inning thanks to Will Smith, a single to make it 3-1. The Blue Jays would respond, though. They weren't going to go away quietly. A George Springer double. This was in the bottom of the seventh to make it a 3-2 game. Then a Dalton Varsho single, which would tie up the game, make it 3-3. Eventually, Blake Trinan would come in this game to relieve Jack Dreyer, and he would actually get out of the inning, bases loaded with 1 out. So shout out to Blake Trinan. Keeps the game tied. Later on in the eighth inning, with Ben Kasparias in the game, with Davis Schneider on base, Andres Jimenez attempts to steal second, and the throw from Will Smith gets away from Miguel Rojas. Schneider comes in to score, and the Blue Jays go up 4-3, an unfortunate way to give up the lead there. Jeff Hoffman would come in to get the save. This time he nails it down. The last time, a bit of more importance, but he wasn't able to do it. This time he nails down the save and puts away the Dodgers, and they lose 4-3, unable to come back in this game. Dylan Cease pitched 5 innings, and he pitched pretty well. 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts. Dodgers kind of had him on the, they had a chance to put up some runs against him, especially early on in the first inning, and weren't able to do that. And that kind of screwed them, not being able to get, kind of put a dent into him, put a dent against the Blue Jays early on in the game against Cease. But anyways, Ohtani pitched 6 innings. Jack Dreyer, he gets the loss, or excuse me, Kasparias gets the loss, but it was Dreyer who kind of came in, and it was a blown save for Dreyer. 1 1/3, a third of an inning. Blake Trinan 2/3 of an inning, and then Ben Kasparias for 1 inning. So let's get to Shohei and how he pitched in this. All right, so Shohei's final line: 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs. The one run that came in was on an error. Only had 2 strikeouts in this game. So again, some of the pitchers on the Dodgers staff have kind of been not tallying up a ton of Ks and whiffs so far. Shohei didn't have a ton in his first start. And then this was, I think they said on the broadcast, the first time in his career he's pitched 6 innings and had 2 strikeouts or less. So normally Shohei's pitches 6 innings, he's getting at least 5 or 6 strikeouts, probably more than that. So just for whatever reason, the Blue Jays are generally a team that doesn't whiff or strike out a lot. 8 whiffs in the game, looked pretty solid. This was one of the only games that I wasn't able to watch fully live, so I didn't get to see Shohei at bat to at bat, but what they were saying on the broadcast was that he was really grinding through this game. Blue Jays were making him work, so a gutty performance from Shohei. One thing that stands out to me right away is that his fastball velocity was actually up in this game. His first start against the Guardians, it was 96.8. He was averaging 98.3 in this game. A bunch of 99, 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. So that's pretty good. But really not much else to say with Shohei. He has continued to increase the usage on his splitter. Not as much in this game, though. 35% four-seamer. He threw a ton of sweepers, 22 sweepers, 14 curveballs, 11 splitters. Also mixed in some sinkers, sliders, and cutters. So Shohei throws so many pitches. It's kind of crazy. Again, I didn't get to watch him live, but a pretty solid start. And Shohei is yet to allow an earned run so far in the season on the mound. So that's pretty good. So, I mean, he's throwing hard. He hasn't allowed any earned runs. He's gotten through 6 innings twice so far, I believe. So Shohei's looked great. And again, just like Yamamoto, the strikeouts and the whiffs will come. I actually remember Shohei's first couple starts last year with the Dodgers. He didn't get a ton of strikeouts or whiffs right away. It was kind of like a little after that. So I do like that the velocity was up. That shows that he's healthy and he's feeling good. So again, his next start will come next week, midweek against the Mets as well. So we'll see. So that's pretty much it from this game. I know this is kind of a haven't talked about done a ton of breakdowns in this game, but Will Smith was on base 4 times. It was really the first time all year that the Dodgers looked a little sloppy on defense. They've actually been very good defensively. I mentioned earlier, like, Hae-Sung Kim has already made some great plays, but Alex Freeland's been great defensively. Miguel Rojas, Andy Paz has been great. Kyle Tucker early on, that was a question I had for the Dodgers when they signed him, was could they kind of improve Kyle Tucker's defense? So far in the year, he's been pretty good defensively. Freddie Freeman, like, if you look at a lot of the defensive metrics, they've been very good. A lot of them would show that the Dodgers have been one of the better defensive teams. And they only made 1 error all year coming into this game. They made 2 in this game. That one error in the 9th or the 8th inning with Will Smith. I don't know. I think they said Will Smith was, credited with the error, and then I think there was one other error in the game with Alex Freeland. So no reason to get on here and kill the Dodgers. It was the first time all year that they looked sloppy on defense, and it was also the first time all year that the bullpen showed some cracks because, and even within the loss, like I said, Blake Trinan pitched great coming out of the pen, getting out of the jam and keeping the game tied, and they continued to do that the night before. Alex Vesia, like I said, came in to the 7th inning with was it the bases loaded or was it first and third? Anyways, he came into a no-out situation and was able to get a punch-out and 2 pop-outs to get out of the inning. Blake Trinan has looked great early on in this year, and then Edwin Diaz has been great as well. So the bullpen and the defense have both been a strong suit for the Dodgers early on in the year, and this was the first time all year that they showed some cracks and looked a little sloppy. So there's no reason to get on here and, kill anybody. That's how it goes sometimes. Overall, it was a great road trip. Coming into Washington last weekend, the Dodgers had been really ice cold offensively outside of like Pages and a little bit of Will Smith and like going into Washington, Shohei hadn't done much, Tucker hadn't done anything, Mookie Betts at the time, I know he got hurt, but Teoscar, a lot of guys have turned it on since then. Now, if you look at a lot of guys' numbers, Shohei, Freddie Freeman, as well as Pages, and then Teoscar Hernandez all have pretty good numbers. Tucker who actually got hot, in the Washington series, has gotten much better, but he still doesn't have the best OPS. Hasn't hit for a ton of pop yet. A lot of singles. Max Muncy is one of the only guys who's kind of like not really gotten going yet, an OPS of 623. Looking for Muncy to turn it on this weekend. That'd be someone that I'm looking to against the Rangers to see if he could do something. Miguel Rojas as well hasn't done much offensively yet. And this was Pages. I think Pages struck out 4 times today. So again, like Pages has been arguably the best hitter in baseball to start the year. So no reason to get on here and kill them. So the Blue Jays were due for a win. The Dodgers were due for a loss. I actually went into the game today expecting the Blue Jays to win the game. But, positive that the Dodgers were in it until the end and had a chance to win. And if it was just for a little bit of some, tidier defense and a little bit of, Jack Trier just getting in the zone a little bit more, Dodgers probably would have come away with the sweep. So, like I said, overall, great road trip. The most positive thing over these 5 wins, these 6 games, 5 wins, is that the offense really came to life. And I want to continue to see that. And like I said, I would like to see a little bit more pop from Kyle Tucker. I'd like to see some just hits from Max Muncy. And those are really the 2 guys. A lot of the other guys have been playing pretty good so far. So, yeah. So next 3 will be this weekend against the Texas Rangers. And they're going to face some pretty good pitching. All right, they won't see Mackenzie Gore, who's gotten off to a good start, but they will see Kumar Rocker, former first-round draft pick. They will see Jack Leiter, another former first-round draft pick, who's been off to a great start and has made some changes this year and has been pitching great for the Rangers. And then they'll also see Jacob deGrom. It will be Emmett Sheehan versus Rocker on Friday, Tyler Glasnow versus Jack Leiter on Saturday. And then it'll be Roki Sasaki versus deGrom on Sunday. So great weekend to look forward to. Dodgers win 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays. They go 5-1 on the road trip. They've been looking great. I think their record drops to 9-3. So we'll see if they can get back on track. Enjoy this day off, this travel day back to the West Coast. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. Like I said, if you are interested in a new baseball podcast for yourself, I have one, Baseball Mondays. The link will be in the description below. You can go to my social media at Nick Talking Ball on X to find it. And you should check it out. I got some good info on there, some breakdowns on guys all across the league and all that stuff. So thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back this weekend to recap the Dodgers and the Rangers.